So a few weeks ago, I uploaded a video about purchasing some knockoff championship replica belts on Amazon, and I was thinking, I have a lot of championship replicas, so why not make a whole video breaking down my collection from the knockoffs to a custom-made one to some WWE ones. I'm a big wrestling fan. Obviously, I'm a big wrestling belt fan, though. As we like to say, I'm a belt mark. Quick story: we had me and Elias AK-47 Roman had a storyline at the Establishment Wrestling a few months ago, and we stole the Florida Tag Team Championships, and I didn't realize it. I was definitely marking out a little bit as we had the titles. We took them home, and we kept them with us for a little bit, and I didn't realize the next show I was walking around with the championship a little too much, and Catalina Perez, a good friend of mine, a good buddy, former stablemate of mine, was just like, go put the belt down, you goddamn Mark. And I was like, yeah, I have been walking around with this belt on my arm for like an hour. So I'm a big fan of wrestling belts. I thought that was funny. I got a good laugh out of that. We both did. So did Elias. But I'm a belt mark. I'm a big fan of wrestling belts. I love the design. I love the way they look. So I have a good amount of replica belts. Kind of have a life hack, I guess. A little cheat code was my father. He owned a pawn shop, and basically people could pawn or sell pretty much anything that he thought, he could sell and make money off of. So every once in a while, someone would come in and try and pawn or sell some wrestling stuff, some wrestling figures, some wrestling DVDs, or the occasional replica belt. Most pawn shops probably wouldn't even bother with that stuff, but my dad knew I was a wrestling fan and knew, that there is value in that stuff. So sometimes he did take that stuff in. A good amount of times he did. So when replica belts came around, they didn't last too long in the pawn shop because I always found a way to negotiate it to where it would come home with me. I would say, Dad, let me take this home, and then I would end up working at the pawn shop an extra few days. I worked at the pawn shop for a while, and then a couple extra days got added on, or a couple extra hours got added on, so I could pay off the money that he basically invested into that belt. So yeah, I was about maybe 12 or 13 when I got my first replica belt, which is funny and a little sad because I do not have it anymore. It was the John Cena United States spinner belt. I found it on eBay for literally, I think, like a steal. I think someone was trying to sell it for about $75 or something like that. Something crazy. Anyone that knows replica belts knows they're not cheap. They're at least $300 or more depending on the belt. I know some of those legacy championships that WWE's come out with are really expensive, around $700 to $1,000 or something crazy like that. So I found that on eBay when I was about 12 or 13 and basically said, Dad, this is all I want for my birthday. And so that was my first belt, was the John Cena United States spinner belt. Very random championship, but it was a steal, and I just wanted a replica belt. So I basically ended up trading that with my dad for another belt. So without further ado, let's start breaking down the replica belts I have in my collection. First off, starting off with the knockoff belts that I made a video about. First, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. This belt is kind of a piece of shit. I said it in my video that this belt is not great. It was pretty cheap. It was around $100-something. Not too much compared to real replica belts, especially probably an IWGP heavyweight title. But it's not great. The leather, so to say, is like almost cardboard. This stuff is glued on. Some of the studs are glued, and slipped before it dried. So yeah, it's not great. It's a good display piece. I will say that. If you put it, I normally have it on my shelf over here. Sorry, things flipped. Normally have it on my shelf over here. So I think it is a good display piece where you put it on the shelf and people see it from afar and go, oh, that's cool, it's the IWGP heavyweight title, and that's about it. But once you pick it up and you actually look at it, it really is not great. Would not really recommend it. I found it on Amazon. Would not recommend it. Again, maybe if you just want to put it on a shelf or whatnot, but if you want to utilize it for maybe videos or something like that, I would not recommend purchasing it in that capacity. But that's my first belt, knockoff IWGP Heavyweight Championship. The second belt in my collection is another knockoff. This is the TNA World Heavyweight Championship from around 2012, 2013 to probably like 2016 or something like that. I don't know where it started and ended, but it was definitely a mid-2010s championship. I kind of grew up with it. I grew up with this version and the previous version as the TNA championships. Those were my childhood and teenage TNA championships. So found this on Amazon as well. It's not by TNA or anything like that. It's by a random person in a different country, but it was cheap. Again, it was $100 and something. This one, I've said it in the knockoff belt video. This one, compared to that IWGP Heavyweight Championship, this is God's work, man. Compared to the IWGP Heavyweight title, this thing is beautiful. It's not it's not the size. It's definitely smaller than the actual title was. I've seen the actual title in real life because I used to go to some of the TNA shows, and that title was very big. It was definitely very big. I remember seeing it, I think on maybe Bobby Roode, and it was definitely way bigger. So it's not accurate to the size, but it is really nice. Same with the belt strap. It's on like a kind of puffy leather strap, which is not the real strap that it was on. I said before in that video that this is kind of like the type of strap you see on a lot of shitty indie belts. The type of indie belts that you see that are kind of like laser sketched on there, and it's like a basic plate that has something, laser printed on it, and it looks like shit. But the puffiness I will take over the horrible cardboard quality of that IWGP heavyweight title. So yeah, compared to the IWGP title, this thing is God's work. It is very nice. It is very cool. For the price, can't beat it. So I would recommend this one for sure. So the next championship on my on my list here on my collection is a custom championship, kind of. It is the OTS Project, the WNRN OTS Project Championship. For those that don't know, I have a group. I'm on a little hiatus from wrestling, but I've been in the wrestling business, and I have a group called OTS Project, Out the Shadows Project, with myself, Elias AK-47 Roman, and Marcos Espada. But we've also kind of went under the WNRN, the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network umbrella, and I have OTS Project. You can see on my TV back there is the logo for it, where me and my cousin Theo basically do a podcast every week. So we came up with the idea to make the WNRN Out the Shadows Project Championship, which was, I think, a cool idea, where starting today, actually I'm recording this the day of the Royal Rumble, and so starting today, me and Theo are going to basically battle over this, but not in the ring, more so in a predictions situation where each month we will always watch the WWE PLEs together. So what we decided to do is take this championship, and we're basically going to use that for the podcast, where we're going to basically do our predictions, and whoever wins the predictions, whoever gets the most right results, will be the champion for the month, will be the WNRN OTS Project champion until the following month, where you have to defend it in the next predictions round. So that's basically what this is. This is the WCW United States Championship. There's a backstory to this. A good man named Josh Masters basically used to work for the company that my dad and I used to own, but before we owned it, I guess he had some sort of storyline. He had some storyline where he introduced, I don't know the full story of it, but he basically introduced a ACW Canadian Championship, and so I believe he bought the replica for the WCW United States title, and he basically put a sticker on top of it that said ACW Canadian Championship, which is still underneath this. I didn't want to take it off. But I basically, a few years ago, I don't know, maybe he had it in his garage or something like that, and he thought I would like it because it's a part of the company, the history of the company that me and my dad owned, which is really cool, but I did have it sitting in here, and it was a little random. So I kind of came up with the idea for this Predictions Championship and thought, well, what if we just took the sticker and put it over this? Still respect what Josh did. I don't disrespect it. I still kept the sticker on underneath in case we take this off. It still is the ACW Canadian Championship, but as of right now, it is the WNRN Out the Shadows Project Championship. So yeah, that's the next one on my list. This Predictions Custom Championship that we have for the OTS Project. Overall, it is a really nice belt. It is by Figures Toy Company. It is the WCW United States Championship, and it's very, very nice quality. So yeah, that's the next one in my collection, is my custom OTS Project Championship. This is also a part of the reason why I'm making this video, because again, today is the day of the Royal Rumble. It is the first predictions defense, or we're going to crown the inaugural champion between myself and my cousin. So I said, you know what, let me let me make sure that I do this video, because after tonight I may not have this championship. It may be at Theo's house. So I was like, let me knock out this video while I still have it at least, and I can include it in my replica collection. Because yeah, I was like, after tonight I may not I may not have the championship in my collection for the month or multiple months. So yeah. So now getting into the good stuff, I believe the rest of the championships in my collection, luckily, thankfully, came from my father and his pawn shop. So I have the WWE Tag Team Championship from the mid-2000s. This SmackDown was always my brand. When I was a kid, it was always my brand. So this was my tag title. And it is probably my favorite tag title design out of all the ones we've had over the years. It says here, I don't know if you can see it, but it says Aaron on the nameplate. My name's not Aaron. I did not get this from a friend named Aaron. This came from the pawn shop, so I don't know. Obviously, someone either pawned it or sold it, named Aaron, or their kid was named Aaron or something like that, pawned it or sold it, and either pawned it, didn't get it back, or just sold it. So when I saw it, I knew is my favorite tag title design. I knew I kind of needed it. So yeah, it's again by Figures Toy Company, mid 2000s kind of WB tag title, the SmackDown tag title that I always kind of called it. I love this belt. I love the design. I'm glad I have it. It is a little, I feel, obscure because it is kind of like how many people own, you know what I'm saying? How many people own a replica of the mid 2000s WB tag title or world tag titles? I feel like that's not something most people probably bought. I'm sure obviously people do have it, but it's not like a world heavyweight title that a lot of people have. So I do like how it is kind of random and probably something that not too many people own. And a fun fact about this is it is kind of hard to see because it is a little faded, but you can kind of see a silver. You can kind of see a silver Sharpie mark there. It is signed by Kurt Hawkins. It wasn't signed when it came. I used to go to the NXT shows in Dale Mabry when they still had the FCW warehouse, I guess. So I used to go there. They used to still, even when they converted over to NXT, they used to still run weekly shows there because they still had the lease on the warehouse. So they would run kind of like live events there. I believe the day I actually got this title was the day we were going to NXT. So it was in the back of my dad's truck. And just so happened that Kurt Hawkins was on the show at the time. This was before he got released. And they kind of sent him back to NXT to do a few things before they ended up releasing him. So he was on the show, and it was kind of a hack. Still is sometimes where with the NXT shows, if you kind of wait in the parking lot after the show, you can kind of catch the wrestlers headed to their car because everybody kind of parked in the same parking lot. So when I saw him on the show, I always loved Kurt Hawkins. He's one of my favorites. So when I saw him on the show, and I knew that this was in my car, I knew, wait a minute, I have to get this signed. So yeah, waited till after the show. I saw him coming. I grabbed it out of the trunk of my dad's car. And yeah, so he signed it. Again, it's a little faded because it's silver Sharpie and it's all kind of cracked and stuff. But I think it is cool that it's kind of an obscure championship, but it is a championship that he held with Zack Ryder. So I think it was cool that he was able to sign it. He was probably like, what the hell? Because when you think about it, again, how many people own a replica of this title, let alone how many people would have shown up to a show and waited in the parking lot to get it signed by Kurt Hawkins. So kind of random, but a cool little thing. I hate that it is faded, so maybe if I were to run into him again one day, I could get it re-signed. I think that would be cool. But yeah, so that's the next one on my list, the mid-2000s SmackDown WWE Tag Team title. The next championship in my collection is a championship that I was really proud to have, and I'm still proud to have it, but over time, I guess I'm not as proud to have it over, not because of the championship itself, but kind of what has happened to this to the replica here that I have. It is the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm a kid of the 2000s, so I grew up with the World Heavyweight Championship and like the Undisputed Championship, but mainly the Spinner Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship. So this is one of the childhood championships. I love it. I still love the big gold. However, my version I don't love as much because my dad, he was a jeweler. He had a nameplate thing where he can engrave names, so I thought it would be cool if he engraved the nameplate. At the time, Chris Jericho was one of my favorite guys. Not anymore. I still like him, but I don't like him now. You know what I'm saying? I think it's time for him to kind of retire, respectfully. So at the time, he was like my favorite guy. So I asked Dad, hey, can you put Chris Jericho on the nameplate? And my dad was dyslexic. My dad, he wasn't too good with numbers and letters and stuff like that. So it's on there, but it's actually Kearse Jericho. He misplaced the R and the I. So this title's a little messed up because it says Kearse Jericho instead of Chris Jericho. So nameplate's kind of messed up. And when I went to a TNA taping, I had like a VIP thing. And you can already see it. I had a VIP thing. And part of the VIP experience was a meet and greet with Hulk Hogan. This is before Hulk Hogan was, outed as kind of a piece of shit. It was when he was still with TNA. This is like 2013, so this is a couple years before he was outed as a horrible person. So it is signed by Hulk Hogan, which on a resale, I guess, value, it is cool. But for my personal collection, I don't like it anymore because I don't like Hulk Hogan. I think he's a horrible person. And a very overrated wrestler. I don't think he's as good as people thought he was. So between the Kearse Jericho and the Hulk Hogan autograph, I'm not too happy with it. Something that is kind of random too, that I wouldn't say I'm not happy with. It's just very random. It's signed by Paige or Saraya, but at the time Paige. Again, when I used to go to the NXT shows, I had this with me, I guess, in my car, and I thought it would be a cool idea to have as many people as I could get to sign it. So I had Paige sign it. I used to meet her every week. She was my favorite, and so it says #1 fan on here because she was my favorite, like, female wrestler. Still is one of my favorites, but at the time, around, this was like 2013, 2014, she was my absolute favorite. So I met her every week, and she basically knew who I was. So yeah, number one fan. Again, very random. Paige did not hold the World Heavyweight Championship. I think, again, my idea was to try and just get it signed by as many people as I could. And then I got it signed by her, and then I didn't get it signed by anybody else other than Hulk Hogan, but that was before, I believe, I got it signed by Paige. So yeah, this title, I love the big gold. I'm still happy that I have it, but between the Chris Jericho nameplate and the Hulk Hogan autograph, I'm not as happy to have this title. I wish it was more so blank than anything. So yeah, that's the next one in my collection. Overall, the big title, the big gold title in general, it is nice. It's beautiful. It's very, very nice. The quality is very good. It is by Figures Toy Company, I believe, and I believe it came from the pawn shop. Again, I'm not mad that I have it. I just wish I didn't make the decisions, I guess, that I made with said championship. Next up in my collection, again, I did say I'm a child of the mid-2000s, so I basically grew up with the World Heavyweight title and the spinner belt. So next in my collection is the spinner belt. I love this title. I think it's a great title. A lot of people hate on it. Maybe just because I grew up with it. I love it. But I think it's cool. I always thought the spinner was really cool. I do kind of agree it didn't fit past John Cena, but I think it did still look cool on people. I think when like Jeff Hardy had it, when CM Punk had it, I think it still looked really cool. It does spin. Yeah, I mean, this is the main title that I grew up with, so it came through the pawn shop, I believe, and I think it was maybe a birthday gift that my dad gave to me. It is kind of a running joke between me and my friend Wyatt, where he purchased the spinner belt himself, I guess, a few years ago, and I'll insert the photo. He came over for the Netflix premiere on Raw, and we did a recreation of the CM Punk John Cena stare down, I guess, going into Money in the Bank 2011, where they both had their versions of the spinner belt. So I'll put that photo in here. But yeah, I love this title. I can't say too much about it. It is very heavy. It is heavy as hell. I picked it up. When I grabbed it, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how heavy this is. I have it normally hanging on a belt hanger here, so I don't really pick it up. It kind of just stays there. But yeah, this thing is heavy, but it is cool. It spins. It is very nostalgic for me, like the World Heavyweight title. So when I do look at it, I do get a smile on my face because I think of my childhood and whatnot. I've had many versions of the toy version of this from Jakks Pacific and Mattel. So having the real version, or the realest version, I guess you could get, is really cool. So that's the next one in my collection, is the WWE Championship Spinner Belt Edition. I have 2 championships left in my collection. This next one is crazy, and I love that I have it. I have the original NXT Championship. This one didn't necessarily come from the pawn shop, but it did still come from my dad. This dude, I forgot his name, but basically this guy, he started training at our training school, and then he kind of quit and whatnot. But he was a fan, and I don't know the whole story, but I guess he had purchased this from WWE shop or at an NXT event or something like that. And he basically got it signed by a ton of talent, and then I believe he got in a relationship or something like that and had to sell it off for an engagement ring or something like that. But I do remember that he sold this for very cheap. He sold it to my dad for like $100 and something, which obviously doesn't cover the cost of the actual championship. This thing's like $300, if not more. But even more so, it is signed by a ton of the NXT talent at the time. Now, I'm not 100% sure. Everybody trying to adjust here. Not 100% everybody that is on here. Like, I can't really read too many of it. It is signed by Charlotte Flair. I know that. I can see that. I think it's signed by Blake and Murphy, Dana Brooke, people like that. Enzo, Simon Gotch, Bailey. So it is signed by some names that aren't too big, but a few names that are huge, like Bailey and Charlotte. So yeah, my dad got this very cheap, and I believe this is the title that I traded for. I traded my U.S. spinner for to get this. My dad did not want to give it to me. He even though he got it for cheap, he knew it was definitely expensive because of the title itself and all the autographs that were on it. So he definitely didn't want to give it to me, but I was like, Dad, I will trade you this title for that title because this is way too cool. And he took it. Probably didn't want to take it, but, my dad was a good man, and he loved his son. So this, again, very nostalgic to me. I went to all those Dale Mabry live events and saw this title multiple times. So the fact that I have it now is really, really cool. And so now I'm down to the last championship I have in my collection of my replica championships. And this one is by far my favorite. It is the WWF Attitude Era Championship. This came from the pawn shop. It's a little dusty because it stays on my shelf back there. This came from the pawn shop. This is my favorite championship of all time. It could be debatable to most people. They may say I'm stupid. They may say I'm crazy. but this design is my favorite title design of all time to this day. So the fact that I have it is really cool, but even more so, it has the Scratch logo. It's not, I've seen other replicas of this, and the one that they currently sell has like the WWE Scratch logo because they can't really use the F. So the fact that this has the F on it is really, really cool. It is made by Figures Toy Company. I looked at the date, 2001. So this is old. This is why it has the F on it. So yeah, it's the last one because I saved the best for last in my opinion. This is my favorite belt design, but it's the favorite title that I have in my collection because it is my favorite design, but also the fact that it has that F, it has the Scratch F logo instead of the E, makes it really, really cool. The fact that it's from 2001. So yeah, good belt, my favorite design, and the last one I have in my collection. It has the Scratch logo. It's super cool. Got it from the pawn shop. So yeah. So that's my video. I break down all of my replica belts from my 2 knockoffs, my custom OTS Project one, and all my WB replicas. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any replica belts, leave it in the comments below. Let's talk. Let's debate. Let's see what your collection looks like. If not, follow me at OTS Bridger on X and Instagram, and let's have a discussion. Like, subscribe, do all that. I appreciate you. Check out the OTS Project on the WNRN and the OTS Project YouTube page every week, where we talk about wrestling, Star Wars, Marvel, all things like that. And yeah, thank y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next video.